Hi, I'm Emily Duker, and today we'll be exercising for overall hip health and hip strength for fall prevention. As a longtime personal trainer and group exercise instructor, I've helped all abilities from Parkinson's and MS to those who have been wheelchair bound and suffered various injuries. So today we'll be spending 30 seconds per exercise on both legs. If at home you feel like you need more time for the exercise, you want to get stronger, feel free to spend as much time as you like on each exercise. Today you will need a resistance band or a TheraBand. If you have either or at home, valuable tools for these exercises that you can use in a myriad of different ways. If you don't have them, don't feel bad. I'll give you an alternative, a way to use your hands. But these are very cheap and, like I said, a great thing to have at home for at-home exercises. Also, I'm going to be using a half roller. These are also very inexpensive and great for stretching and exercises at home. However, again, if you don't have this, grab a book maybe that you don't care about putting your feet on and use that. No biggie if you don't have this. And then also, I will be laying down at some point doing floor exercises. So find a comfy place to do that. We don't want to do it on the bed or a sofa if it's too soft. We don't want you to sink into a too soft of a surface. So if you have a yoga mat or maybe even put a couple pillows on the floor for head support, just a little something where you can feel comfortable being on the floor for those exercises. Today, we're really focusing a lot on external hip rotation, this movement here, because a lot of times in the gym, exercises focus on hip flexion, lifting the leg as such. Even the way we sit day to day in our cars, at home while we're eating, it's a lot of hip flexion, which causes tightness in the hip flexors and then even ends up wrapping around and pulling on your low back. So over time, as we age, unwittingly, we stop doing external hip rotation, whether we know it or not, which then causes foreseeable problems for the future. Because if we're walking and, oh darn, I forgot my keys, ideally we should be able to turn around as such with that external hip rotation. But as we age, what happens is it becomes little stutter, tiny steps, which then open us up for potential falls. That's why these exercises will really focus on that external hip rotation. So right off the bat, that is what we will be doing. I have a chair handy. Feel free to use it. We need great posture, almost exaggeratedly slow. So tight core, stand tall, shoulders down and back, okay? You can use both hands on your chair if you feel like you need a little extra support. A little bit more challenging would be one hand, okay? Now I'm going to kick my leg out to the side and back round, okay? Out to the side and back round. We don't want to see the foot. It shouldn't be like this. Forward and around, to the side and around. Standing tall, do not lean at all, okay? And keep both knees softly bent. We don't want to lock out the knees. Furthermore, if it bothers your knees, come back, put both weight on your legs, and then circle round. Give those knees a little bit of a rest. Much more challenging would be to not put the foot down. So cater to your ability, what you feel that you can do. Now, we'll go over to the other side. Again, standing tall, tight core. Put that foot down, circle out and around. Don't let yourself see your foot. We do want a big circle, But we don't want to do it to the detriment that we start, leaning or things like that, okay? Do what you can. Try and circle that hip nice and big. You can feel that hip working, especially standing tall and straight. A lot of these exercises work on your posture as well, which posture is so important to fall prevention, okay? Let's do one more and rest. When we lose our posture and we start standing more and more rounded with our head forward, the head weighs a lot, and the head can cause us to tip forward. So practicing beautiful posture, getting your head back, your shoulders back as well, is going to help that fall prevention. Next up, okay, again, standing at your chair, we're going to be doing a 9, 7, and 8, and 6 o'clock position. So standing tall, you cannot lean forward whatsoever. Keep your core tight, tummy tight. We're going to step out to an imaginary 9 o'clock on our clock underneath us. We're going to step back to neutral. And then you're going to go to 7 and 8 o'clock, touching those toes down. Come back and straight back to 6 o'clock. Again, focusing on standing really tall. It really is so essential to these exercises. 9 o'clock, back to neutral. 7 and 8 o'clock, back to neutral. 6, good. Keep the tummy tight. Reach out. 7 and 8 o'clock. Soft knees, 6. Let's do one more. 9, 7, 8, and 6. Good, okay, other side. Of course, if you really want a challenge, you could try not holding on to anything at all. That might be something that you need to work up towards, but it's good to have options. Okay, same thing, 9 o'clock, come back to neutral. 7 and 8, neutral. 6, and neutral. 9, tap out. 7 and 8, stand tall. And 6, good, keep the tummy engaged. 9 o'clock. 7 and 8, and 6. 2 more. 9, 7, 8. Breathe, don't hold your breath. And 6, last one. 9, 7, 8, and 6. Good. Okay, so now we're going into external hip rotation again. We're going to practice that turning movement, the, oh darn, forgot my mask or my keys that we've all been doing so much lately. So we're going to step out wide to about a 90-degree angle, okay? I would say it's a little bit wider than shoulder width, okay? And you really want to open up to the side. You can see how my body is at an angle right now. And then we step back in, okay? So nice big 90-degree step out and back in. Standing tall. Beautiful posture. Shoulders down and back, chest open, tummy engaged. And really focus on that feeling you're getting through your hips, maybe even the glutes, which is the butt. The mind-body connection is very important. If you think about the muscles you're trying to use, they will activate and they will start working for you, and you'll have that light bulb moment. And rest. Okay, other side. On this one is the exact same exercise. I'm just going to show you also holding the chair, just in case you do feel a little uneasy doing this without anything to hold on to. Okay, so exact same exercise, that external hip rotation. 90-degree step out and coming all the way back in, okay? We are rotating the torso on this so that we end up facing a different direction and then come back in to where we started. Nice wide step out. Focus on using the hip, rotating through the hip, even using your glutes. Those are the butt muscles. and they are very important. Nice and tall through the posture. Let's do one more, tummy tight. Step out and step back in. Good. Okay. Again, external hip rotation. This time, it's a much more subtle move, okay? It's quite the opposite of what we just did. So you'll drive this standing leg into the floor. Don't lock out your knee. Locking the knee is when you strain your leg too much and it hurts the knee. So think about keeping a soft bend in your knee. This leg, the floating leg, hopefully you can see it's slightly off the floor. I'm also going to slightly bend it just so it does clear the floor. And then we're going to rotate this leg out and then pull back in. Okay, we don't want to slump forward, anything like that. Again, that beautiful, perfect posture, or as close to it as possible. And we're going to watch my knee. See how my knee really turns out to the side? That's what we're doing. Now, I know I feel this, which lets me know I haven't been doing enough of my external hip rotation exercises. So if it feels very tight, just do what you can. Try and breathe. On this one, we're not really turning our torso. It's tempting, you want to, but it should really be isolated through the hip. Make that hip rotate out, okay? All ability levels really need to practice that external hip rotation. We get so tight from all the sitting that we do in our society, whether we realize it or not. And by working that external hip rotation, we're really helping to improve that. Like I said, I can tell that I need to be doing these more myself. So other leg, really drive this leg into the floor. Remember, do not lock out your knees, very important. And do the best you can to just point that knee out to the side. Isolate through the hip, stand tall. On this one, we are not moving our torso. We're not bending forward. We're tall, straight. Okay, rotate that hip out. It's kind of a 2-for-1 on this one as well, because you can definitely feel this standing leg working as well, right? Yes, 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 that's all good. Let's do one more. Stand tall, soft knees, rotate out, and come down. Good. So, standing nice and tall and straight, feel free to use your chair for a little bit of help with that balance. We're going to extend the hip back, okay? Hip extension. Keep your leg straight. Do not bend at the knee, okay? You can see that my leg is straight. I want you to pause here, and I want you to try and activate, squeeze the glute or the butt muscle, and then slowly come back in. Extend, hold, squeeze those glutes. That mind-body connection, the more you think about squeezing and using the glutes, even if you can't feel it, will help get you there eventually. It's a muscle like anything else that you have to train. Nice, slow, and controlled. Remember not to lean forward. Keep your chest back. Squeeze those glutes. Let's do one more. Squeeze. Nice, slow, and controlled. Bring it back in. Okay. If it hurts your knees, you could alternate sides. If it hurts to stand on one leg too long, feel free to alternate. Whatever makes you the most successful with these exercises, please feel free to do. Other side, okay, standing tall, kick back, squeeze the glute and pull back in. Kick back, squeeze your glute, pull back in. Really slow and controlled. We're not rushing this. We're focused on getting our muscles to correctly activate for us. Kick back, keep that leg straight, keep your posture tall, and your tummy tight. Engaging the core will help your balance. Squeeze those glutes. Let's do one more. Squeeze, hold, and slowly pull back in. Okay. Next up is hip flexion. Yes, this is the thing that I told at the beginning that we do too much of. This, okay? We're just gonna do the one exercise for hip flexion though, so it won't be too much. Again, you have to stand tall and straight. That is a huge reoccurring theme in these standing exercises. It applies to all of them. You're gonna lift a leg. We're gonna rotate out to the side, and then we're gonna pull back in and down. Again, slow and controlled movements. Keep this knee soft. Don't lock out the knee. Rotate, pull in, and down. What we don't want to do in this one is rotate the torso, meaning this. Okay, and I greatly exaggerated that, but you can see that when I do it correctly, it's only happening at the hip. We're isolating the hip, we're making that hip do the movement, not rotating our upper body for the movement. Very important. Rotate out, come back in. And you might be very tight. That rotation out might be really hard for you. You might be like, you know what, that's about it. That's fine. Okay, something to work towards to be able to open up a little bit more to the side. Okay, let's do the other way. Same thing, standing tall, hip flexion, drive that knee up as high as you can. Externally rotate out, go back down. Up, out, in, down. Think about your hip. Think about isolating the hip. Really making it work, making it open up through the side. Come back in and down. Nice deep breaths. Don't hold your breath. Breathe through it. Let's do one more. Up, out, in, and down. Good. Okay. Now, dipping birds. If you've seen the garden dipping birds, that's actually the movement that we're doing here. Okay, so you guessed it, you'll be standing tall and straight, tummy tight. I am gonna start with one leg back behind me for this one. Okay, still standing tall though. Again, my leg will stay straight. And I'm just going to hinge forward, lean forward from the hips, and then come back up to standing. Okay, very important that you don't overdo this one, okay? With time, with practice, you can make it a greater range of movement, okay? That's pretty advanced though. So starting off, make it subtle, make it controlled, work on your posture. We need a tight core, a straight spine, shoulders back, okay? As you lift, drive this leg into the floor and use this leg to get you back up to standing. This is actually leg work, okay? We're not going down into this dipping bird and then lifting with our low back. That would be dangerous. We don't want that. It's all about this standing leg. Drive it into the floor, squeeze your butt, and then pull back up. Okay, this is all about posture. Lots of balance. Breathe. Focus on what we're doing here. Think about squeezing the glutes. And rest, okay? The key places for this exercise is the hamstrings, the glutes. You'll even feel a little bit of that stretch through your hip flexor when you're kicking back, okay? Again, other side, start with the other leg back, nice and tall and straight. Lean forward, lift the leg, and slowly, carefully come down. We're driving this other leg into the floor and then using it to get back up to our standing position. Belly button to spine. Keep your tummy contracted. Okay. Make it very subtle. Just do what you're comfortable with. It's more important to feel the exercise in the correct way than it is to do too much too fast, okay? You can do this. Just start at your level. Let's do one more. Squeeze and come down. Good. Plain and simple, we're going to do balance, just good old balance. Meaning you'll be holding on to your chair. We're gonna lift one leg and just have it bent behind me. Keep this standing knee soft, and we're just gonna hold. Okay? Feel free to hold on to your chair, whatever you need. Nice deep breath, stand tall, keep the tummy tight. Breathe. So often people really hold their breath while they're trying to balance. We don't want that. Take deep breaths, breathe into it. It's okay if your ankle does a little bit of that wobble movement. We're strengthening it. We're trying to get it stronger, and it will happen. That's okay. Put your hand on your chair, restabilize, find your center, use your core, and breathe through it. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come down. Okay. Same thing other side. Practice that beautiful posture and go. Don't underestimate the importance of using the tummy here. Keep it tight for that balance. Keep it strong. Your knee is soft and you're standing as straight as possible. Head pulled back. We don't want to be slumped forward or anything, okay? Do the best you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, okay. Give yourself a little shake out. We're gonna make it harder. So we're still going to do balance, but now we're going to challenge more of the vestibular system, the inner ear crystals. Balance challenges can come from a lot of different factors, and one of them is the inner crystals. So we're going to work that by doing the same exercise. We're still going to balance, just like so. But now we're going to look up for 5 seconds, back to neutral, down for 5, back to neutral, right for 5 seconds, neutral, and then left for 5 seconds. It's surprisingly tricky. So remember to breathe, okay? Hold on to your chair for a little bit of help, okay? Ready, and look up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and neutral. Then back down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come up. Neutral to the right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Neutral. Last one. To the left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and neutral. Good. Believe it or not, something so simple is working those tiny little ear crystals for better balance. Okay, other side. Again, soft knee, stand tall. Ready? We're looking up for 5, and 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Back to neutral. Down for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back up to the left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back to center. Make sure you're breathing. Deep breaths, everybody. To the right. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come back. Okay, so now seated in our chair for the seated portion, I'm going to grab either of these bands. This is a TheraBand and this is a resistance band with handles. Either or will work, whatever you have. if you don't have either of these, then you're going to take your hands and you're going to place them right outside your knee, and you're going to, with all your might, create a little resistance for the exercise, which I will now get into. So with a band, we're just going to place it around the legs. Apply as much resistance as you feel is good for your ability level. Or the hands here on the outside of the knees, okay? And feet together, you'll be abducting out. This is a seated clam shell. We're sitting tall and straight, our core is tight, and we're trying to engage our glutes, the butt muscles, the cheeks. Press out, squeeze those glutes, sit tall, and come back in, okay? Also, it's okay if you leave both feet on the floor. It's also okay to roll the feet out as well. Neither of those options are incorrect. Feel free to do them. Squeeze those glutes, hold for a moment, think about the muscles you're trying to use, keep the tummy tight, sit tall and straight, head back, squeeze out, and rest. Okay, we're gonna do a clam shell, but with a greater range of motion, meaning that our feet are gonna be about 6 inches, foot apart, okay? Same thing with your band or your hands. Now, sitting tall and straight, you're going to clam shell out. It's okay, you saw my band just kind of roll up. They do that all the time, no biggie. You can always position it a little bit closer to the knees so it stays put a bit more, but don't worry about it too much. Really press those knees out, squeeze the glutes, and still try to focus on that feeling through the hips as well as you do this. I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit of a bicep workout as well. There's a little bit of work in there for the arms. If you're really pressing against that resistance band, squeeze the glutes. Last one. Good, and come back in. Okay, a third clam shell version is with your block or your book under the feet, just under the ball of the foot. Again, resistance band or hands, either or. You're going to lift up as high as you can onto your toes, and then press out. Come all the way back down, up, out, squeeze those glutes, in and down. We're changing the angle of which the hip has to work at. Tricky, tricky. There's a reason for that block. Sit tall and straight, keep the tummy tight. Roll out onto those toes, pull back in and all the way down. Up, out, in, down. One more. Up, out, in, and down. Good. Okay, so lying on the floor, whatever kind of setup you have that's comfortable, just don't go for something too soft, okay? We'll be on our side. You can use a little towel or even just your arm underneath your head, okay? And then we'll have our legs extended out, and we're just gonna do a really simple abduction. Gonna lift and lower. Lift, nice, slow and control, and lower. Keep the tummy tight. You can use this top free hand against the floor to kind of give you a little bit of more of a steady feeling as you do these exercises. Believe it or not, doing an abduction lying down is harder than an abduction standing up. So don't be surprised if you're like, wow, this is really challenging for me. It will be. Lying down is actually harder. Okay, nice slow and controlled movement. Really lift that leg. Okay, we don't want to kind of give into any kind of roll back. You can see how my hip just rolled back. Try and imagine lifting through the heel, that there's a string attached to your heel and that string is lifting your heel up. You can feel it through the hip, through this area. That's good. Stay focused on that. Let's do one more lift and gently lower down. Good. Okay, I'm just going to switch sides. Same thing. Okay. Arm underneath the head or towel. Use your free hand for a little bit of stability and lift. Drive up with the heel, lift through the heel. Feel that hip work. Keep the tummy tight. Breathe, nice deep breaths. Isolate that work in the hip. Don't tune out. Don't start thinking about your grocery shopping list. Focus on the exercises. Focus on really utilizing your hip. Last one, and rest. Good. Okay, now I'm gonna transfer over to my tummy and we're going to do hip extension, okay? Now, I have a client who really loves this exercise because he really gets a stretch right through the hip flexor where we all tend to be very, very tight from doing a lot of sitting in chairs or driving in the car. So again, you're going to imagine that there's a string attached to your heel. Just allow your neck to be neutral. We don't want to be here, okay? You could even put your forehead down, but just try and keep the neck relaxed. And lift up through the heel. Okay, we don't want to twist, rotate in the torso or the upper body. We are just lifting the leg. So imagine there's a string lifting that heel and try and squeeze your glutes, your butt, okay? That leg, that lifting leg, that butt cheek should be working. Think about using the glutes, lift through the heel, and get that stretch feeling through the hip flexor, the front of your thigh. Last one, lift, slow and controlled, lower down. Good, okay, stay right where you are. Same thing other side, lift the heel, squeeze the glute. Careful not to rotate. You're keeping both hips in full contact with the floor. Now, this doesn't have to be a huge lift or anything, okay? Again, coming back to different ability levels. All of this might be very new to you and very challenging, and that's okay. Small, subtle movements done right are just as valuable as somebody a little bit more advanced who can lift their leg a little bit more. Just do whatever you can. Squeeze the glutes, keep both hips down, lift through the heel. Let's do one more. Squeeze and lower down. Good. Okay, moving on. We're going to be back onto our side. And now, we're going to externally rotate the hip, lying down. So again, free hand can act as a little bit of a balancer. We're going to rotate our knee out to face up to the ceiling and then pull back in, okay? Very subtle, pretty finite movement. That's what we want. Do what you can. Rotate that knee up to the ceiling. Can you see that? Then rotate back in and rest, push down. Rotate out and back in. Should feel it through this hip, working. Rotate that knee up towards the ceiling and down. Last one, up. Externally rotate through the hip and down. Good. Okay. That's a hard move. Be nice to yourself if it's harder than you thought it would be. Always room for improvement. Okay. Nice little padding for the neck here. You can use your hand. Rotate that knee up towards the ceiling. Open up through the hip. Okay. Think about what you're doing. Breathe. Okay. Again, we don't want to roll back, okay? We lose control and then we stop working that external rotation. Use this hand to help brace you a little bit. Rotate that knee open and point up to the ceiling, back in and down, up, rotate out, back in and down. Let's do one more. Rotate, open up through the hip and back down. Good. Okay. Next movement is a diagonal lift. And again, I want you to imagine there's a string pulling your heel back. It's like this. Come back all the way in. It's kind of an abduction, the first flying exercise we did, but we're also moving diagonally backwards as well. Okay, imagine that string is pulling your leg back and you're getting that stretch through the front of the hip flexor. Stretch back, come back in, stretch back. Keep the tummy tight. Try and squeeze the glute muscles. Last one. Diagonal stretch back and come back in. Okay, other side. Stretching back. Come back in. Always come back into neutral. Stretch back. Just do whatever you can. You should feel it through there as you stretch back diagonally. Diagonal kick back. Try and squeeze your glutes. Nice deep breaths. Stay strong. You can do this. Reach back. Last one. Pull with the heel and come back in. Great, so those were all the exercises. Now we're going to end with a little bit of stretching for the hip. Stretching is just as important as strengthening. We're going to cross the ankle over the knee for the classic 4 stretch. If anything, I want you to lean forward for a deeper stretch. If you can't handle a deeper stretch, feel free to just sit nice and tall. What we're not going to do though is lean back. That completely defeats the purpose, okay? So if you can handle more stretch, go ahead and hinge forward from the hips with a straight spine. We're not rounding, we're not collapsing in. We're tall and straight, leaning forward from the hip crease. And then you can even take your forearm and just gently apply a little bit of gentle pressure for an additional little stretch. Keep your spine straight at all times. Nice deep breaths. In through the nose. Very slow out through the mouth to really relax the body. Keep the shoulders down. We don't want to be here either. Relax the neck, shoulders down. Breathe. Do your best to relax into the stretch. I know, may not be easy. Do your best. And go ahead and very gently release that leg. Other side. Important note about the 4 stretch. If you have sciatic nerve problems, do not do this stretch. This is not for those with sciatic nerve problems, okay? The nerve won't appreciate this stretch. Again, sit nice and tall, lean forward from the hip crease, keep the spine straight, shoulders down, long relaxed neck. Go to your happy place. Just breathe into it. You should feel this all through here, the outside of the hip, the glute, even down into the abductor, the side of the leg as well. Hold for a little longer. Just focus on the breathing. Deep inhale, long, slow exhale out the mouth. If you're a little bit more advanced and you've done this stretch, you know it well, you can make it more of a dynamic stretch by lifting up onto your toe and then going back down. Lift up on the toe and back down. Just a different way to stretch, making it more of a dynamic stretch. Next up, we're going to do a quad and hip flexor stretch. So I have one cheek on the chair and one cheek off the chair. I'm also holding the back of the chair for a little bit of support. Okay, I'm going to extend my leg back and I have my toes curled underneath me. And what we're going to do, nice and tall, very straight, you're going to try and straighten your leg and then lower down, bend the leg. Straighten and bend. Again, we're just making this a dynamic stretch. You might be familiar with this if you take some kind of exercise class. It's very common. But this lifting and lowering adds a different element to the stretch as well. Now, don't be tempted to straighten your legs so much that you're like, you know what? I feel it in my low back. Is that correct? We do not want to feel it in the low back. It should be through your quad and the hip flexor. So don't straighten out too much if that is the effect that you're getting. Lower, lift, straighten, and lower. Good. Okay, pull back in nice and gentle. Switch over to the other side. Same thing, toes are down, curled underneath. We're going to start with our leg bent and straighten. Lower and straighten right through here. This is what we're after. Breathe into it, nice deep breaths. Take your time. Being slow and controlled is what you need to be doing in your exercises and in your stretches. Think about what you feel and how do you feel it. Again, if you feel it through your low back, don't straighten out so much. Keep it a little bit more subtle. Last one, straighten and lower. Good, pull that leg in. All right, last one. This is for the inner thigh and groin. I'm gonna have, again, one cheek on the chair and one cheek off. I'm gonna straighten my leg out. My toes are pointing straight ahead, okay? And we're going to reach out to the side as much as you can. You can even bend a little bit more. And then come back in and reach for the floor. Up, out, reach over the leg. Feel that through the inner thigh, groin. And then in to center and down. Very gently, move gently. Back up. Breathe out to the side. Feel that good stretch. Come back in and down. Come back up and let's switch sides. One cheek on, one cheek off. Extend that leg out. Reach out over your leg. Come back in and down. Oh, important note, if you feel a little unsteady here, a little bit like you might lose your balance, you could hold your thigh, you could hold the chair, anything to make you feel a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, we don't want to pitch forward over our chair. So grab onto something that makes you feel a little safer, a little bit more steady. Keep going, reach out over the leg, stretch it out, breathe into it. Come back in and down. Let's do one more. Out. Reach along that leg. Come back to center and down. Come back up. You made it. Those are your hip stretches and strengthening exercises for fall prevention. Good luck, everybody.